So I went to the movie theater the other day to watch Detective Pikachu, and among the trailers that played was none other than the Sonic movie trailer. I already thought Sonic looked pretty hideous in the small screen, but seeing the trailer blown up like that, it was a revelation. The big screen really highlighted just how visually unappealing Sonic's design is. I kid you not, I could actually hear people around me sort of gasp and laugh at the shot showing Sonic up close and personal because it just looked so wrong. And I've said this before, but I could eventually get used to Detective Pikachu's photorealistic take on Pokemon. When I watched the movie itself, I thought it looked really good. It looked really gorgeous, the Pokemon really true to the source material. But with this Sonic design, no matter how much I look at it, I feel like it's just never gonna grow on me. Which is why I personally was relieved to hear the news that Sonic movie director Jeff Fowler and his team are going out of their way to change and improve Sonic's design. I really do feel like Sonic's unpleasant appearance will be a huge distraction from everything else. I think it looks bad enough that it does warrant some urgent revisions. But something else that's been on a lot of people's mind is how all of this will affect people working in the visual effects department. After all, stuff like character design gets approved well before a movie goes into production, and after initial concepts are approved, it probably takes months to create the models and animations. So the concern is that poor decisions on the part of executives and creative leads who greenlit Sonic's current design will lead to artists and animators having to crunch and work overtime. There's this question of, is adjusting Sonic's design as simple as making a few modifications and hitting overwrite, or is it an involved process that will take a lot of fine-tuning to pull off before the November 8th deadline? Well, to answer that question is none other than Juan Luis Sanchez, character supervisor for Ilion Animation, the studio that worked on the movie Paddington, which stars a CGI bear in a realistic setting, which has the appearance of the titular character from the series of children's books. While he himself isn't directly involved in the Sonic movie and he doesn't know anyone working on the project, he's done CGI characters enough that he claims to have a solid idea for the kind of time and manpower required to tweak Sonic's design at this stage. Speaking to news outlet IO9, he began by relaying that finalizing Sonic's design probably took between 6 to 9 months of work that's now been thrown out the window. Sanchez then added, quote, "If they took 9 months to build a character, it's 2 to 3 months of reworking before you can even put the character back into shots again. I can't even guess what's going on behind the scenes." Now, Sanchez did emphasize that at this stage in the movie development process, Sonic as a CGI character has probably only been implemented in a few shots. We're not dealing with a situation in which Sonic has been added to enough shots that they'd have to re-implement Sonic's design for the whole movie. By Sanchez's estimation, Sonic has probably been added to maybe 5% of the movie, which gives the visual effects team wiggle room when it comes to making last-minute adjustment and changes. Corroborating Sanchez's claims was another visual effect artist going by the name Daryl Bartley, who worked on CGI-heavy films like Avatar and Power Rangers. Bartley told IO9 that, quote, "Much of the work on getting the character into the movie is done in the final months or even weeks of production." The article also transcribed the following quote from Bartley for additional context, which reads, quote, "Obviously, on most movies, they are doing everything down to the wire. They push the limits of everyone involved to continue to make changes to the very last second you could commit a frame to film or digital. There are shots being finalized the weeks before or even the week before. There's a prevailing thought that you could snap your fingers and change things." In other words, the issue right now isn't having to take Sonic out of the movie and then put him back in, as that aspect is still in its early stages. The problem is that redesigning Sonic, that by itself, can actually take a few extra months of work. There's a reason why character design is nailed down during pre-production, because when it comes to movie development, tweaking or overhauling character design isn't as simple as booting up Photoshop and making some adjustments. If you get the design wrong early on, a lot of work is going to go down the drain, which is exactly what we're seeing with the Sonic movie. The result is that according to IO9's article, unless the Sonic movie is delayed by a few months, visual effect artists could be looking at lots of stressful overtime leading up to the movie's launch. To paint a clearer picture of the work that the Sonic redesign entails, Sanchez provided some details in regards to how he believes the process will be like. IO9 paraphrased Sanchez's insight as follows. To demonstrate, Sanchez described the process of what it would take to make Sonic look like that viral tweet shared above. He said characters like Sonic are usually divided into two pieces, the head and the body. Each have their own challenges, and changes like this couldn't be solved with cosmetic fixes. For example, thinning Sonic's legs, changing the size of his head, or redesigning the shape of his eyes. And that's not even getting into the fur. According to Sanchez, the body could take a month to fix, and the head twice that, before putting him back into the movie. Since the movie is supposed to come out in half a year, this could reduce up to half of the designer's available time. From the design to the modeling to the rigging, putting in the skeleton, testing out the skeleton, putting in the fur, lighting it, all of that work is easily 9 months, and that's without major design changes or changes in the story along the way, Sanchez said. So, yikes, the Sonic movie team's visual effects department certainly has their work cut out for them. I do think that the ideal solution to all this would be if executives delayed the Sonic movie, that way they can give the visual effects artists enough time so they're doing their best work rather than rushing in a stressful work environment. Movie production is a very complicated machine where every cog has to be as premeditated as possible, and having to change even one of the machine's cogs a mere months away from release can mean having to move a lot of other pieces around. Sanchez and Bartley understand these potential pains for visual effects artists, which is why they both told IO9 that they're frustrated that Sonic's design is being changed to the whims of social media backlash. Sanchez particularly recounted during his time working on the movie Paddington how when the bear was first teased, there was a similar backlash to the bear's photorealistic design, with many calling it creepy and terrifying. But when the movie launched, it did end up garnering generally positive reception from both critics and general viewers alike. Another scenario Sanchez brought up was how some people had negative knee-jerk reactions against the design of Ben Affleck's Batman when that was first unveiled. On one hand, I do get where he's coming from. When a character is adapted from another medium or someone new is cast to play an iconic role, there will always be some segment of the community that will complain about how certain design elements for characters look and feel. As an additional example, every time you get a new actor to play James Bond or the Doctor from Doctor Who, the community feedback will always be divided. But I feel like the Sonic movie is a special case. I feel like in this case, the negative reception feels pretty unanimous overall. It feels like people generally agree that it's not just about disliking how different the design is from what's expected. Many people find fundamental aspects of the design to just be plain bad. Yes, the realistic take on Paddington did initially freak some people out, but the character design did still resemble a bear. There were still aspects of him that were cute, even at a glance. There was that one poster that framed Paddington in a really creepy way, but even this is nowhere near the level of uncanniness that Sonic evokes in the movie. Same thing for Ben Affleck's Batman. Yeah, there were some people who were skeptical about the design and Ben Affleck's acting chops, but for the most part, I feel like people, when they first looked at this, they went, oh yeah, this is Batman. This is recognizable. This doesn't look off-putting. It's just different from, say, what Nolan did. When you look at Sonic in this movie, though, I'd be hard-pressed to say that this design harkens back to the lovable Sonic design gamers grew up with. It's also worth pointing out that Detective Pikachu proved you can make a good first impression with CGI characters adapted from iconic source materials. Don't get me wrong, there were people making fun of how creepy some of the Pokemon looked when the Detective Pikachu trailer first launched, but if you look at the likes and dislikes ratio on the YouTube video of that trailer, and if you recall the general vibe surrounding the movie when this trailer was first unveiled, you'll see that generally people were pretty positive despite some initial skepticism and despite some initial shock at the realistic Pokemon. This has in large part to do with the fact that the movie's trailer actually evoked Pokemon. It felt like a Pokemon movie. Many design elements felt true to the source material, even if the photorealism of some of the Pokemon took some getting used to. And even Ben Affleck's Batman, when that was first introduced in the Batman v Superman trailer, initial reactions were actually generally positive. People generally were receptive towards Batman's new design because it actually felt like a version of Batman that felt true to the source material and wasn't generally weird and off-putting to look at. With the Sonic movie, on the other hand, the trailer's likes to dislikes ratio and general social media buzz were overwhelmingly negative from the outset. It wasn't just skepticism, it wasn't just we'll wait and see, it was utter disdain and ridicule for what felt like the butchering of an iconic character design. From what I can tell, the backlash against Sonic is on another level compared to Paddington and Ben Affleck's Batman. It's more widespread and universal, and that's because Sonic's design is just that bad. It's bad enough that it truly does, I feel, need an overhaul if the team doesn't want to release the movie to mass ridicule, if they don't want Sonic's design to be the center of attention, if they don't want this movie to be remembered for all the wrong reasons. It is ultimately up to the higher-ups to decide what's best for the project. It is up to them to ask the question of, do they want to keep the design and just release the movie as originally envisioned at the risk of ridicule, or do they think redesigning Sonic is worth the extra effort, as well as the risk of potentially overworking their visual effects department? The choice is on them, and they could have chosen to not buckle to social media backlash, and they could have stuck to the original design. But I can also respect when creative leads can read the room, acknowledge mistakes were made, see that there is room for improvement, and take feedback seriously, especially when the feedback is so unanimous. It's just too bad that executives and the creative leads didn't foresee this outcome when they were first conceptualizing this movie. It honestly doesn't take a genius to see that messing with Sonic's iconic design to this extent and getting it so wrong on so many levels wasn't going to sit well with fans of the series. Hell, it doesn't take a genius to see that you don't even have to be familiar with Sonic to feel that there's something really off about this creature that they designed. To finish things off, the IO9 article asked both Sanchez and Bartley about the conspiracy theory going around regarding the movie studio purposely unveiling a trailer featuring an off-putting Sonic design so that they could follow that up with a commitment to improve the design as part of some viral marketing campaign. The theory is that this was all planned all along to garner positive reception and to bring a lot of attention to the Sonic movie. To that theory, both Sanchez and Bartley responded that this was unlikely and stupid, expressing that there's too much money involved for a studio to risk a strategy that relies so much on blind hope. Bartley also added, quote, "There is such a thing as good attention and bad attention. Having your fanbase be pissed off at you in order to generate interest is not anything a sane person would throw out there." Yeah, I'm going to side with Sanchez and Bartley on this one. I, for one, have never believed there is much validity to that conspiracy theory. I think that the Sonic creative team and the movie studio genuinely thought the worst they would face with this trailer was mixed reception, and I think they did not expect an avalanche of negative feedback on this scale, because that's seemingly how tone-deaf executives and creative heads of this project are. It's a lack of understanding and foresight that, based on Sanchez and Bartley's insight, will result in the visual effects team ultimately paying the price through months worth of additional work. The best we can hope for now is that their efforts will yield good results that will make fans feel more optimistic about the movie's future. Despite some of the ramifications, I personally do think Sonic's movie design requires a revision if it hopes to mitigate ridicule, if the long-term goal is to please fans, if it hopes to avoid becoming a laughingstock. And I'm glad the creative team agrees. I'm glad that the director took the initiative to say, okay, we actually do have to change some stuff if we want this to be the best product it can be. But I do understand concerns about the human cost of a situation like this, and I do hope that the movie studio works closely with the visual effects department so the people there can achieve desired results while being treated right. I hope they can talk things out, achieve a balance, and if that means delaying the whole movie a couple months, so be it. I actually think that the decision to delay the movie would actually paint the movie on a more positive light in the eyes of audiences and movie industry pundits. I think it would make people more optimistic that the movie could be better, that there would be more time to fine-tune everything. Anyway, these are one man's thoughts and opinions on Sanchez and Bartley's insight into what it would take for the Sonic movie team to redesign the character. I'd love to hear what your take is on all of this in the comments below. With that, I would like to end this news update and discussion video. Thank you for tuning in. To be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.